playing some Democracy 3 today. Essentially, you take control of some sort of democratic government, and you have to solve problems and make decisions. So, we're gonna go ahead and play as the US, because that's where I'm from. We will play as if we're one of the two major parties in the US. So, and then everything else will leave at the normal settings. Alright. So, we just got elected, and we're the new president. So in this scenario, there's about 316 million Americans, which is a little bit below what we currently have in America, but this game is also not brand new. So this is our income, which is generated from a series of things, primarily income tax though, then sales, corporate, and then borrowing, which is not good because then that increases our debt. And then here's our expenditure, or how much we spend each term. So we spend mostly on military, then state pensions, then state schools. So, and then this is the deficit, which is how much we fall short each term. And then you can look at, as we have a deficit each term, the debt continues to rise. So, and then there's all these different social policies, and we can decide how we want to create policy to change the government. We'll start by implementing the Racial Discrimination Act, which prevents discrimination based on race. And with each program, you can increase or decrease the amount of funding that you give it. We'll give this max funding because it's a pretty cheap policy. It will only take 215 million. So I'm going to save up some of my political action points. So each thing you do takes a certain amount of political action points. So like, in order to raise the tobacco tax, it takes 27, to lower it takes 10, and to get rid of it completely it takes 20. So we're going to save up so we can increase taxes a little bit so we can get rid of our deficit and start decreasing our overall debt. Then we can start to work on some of our social policies once our debt is under control. So, so this is whether or not we want to allow debt collection agencies to operate or not. And I'm going to say we're going to limit their activity because it can negatively affect the poorest people in society. So now we have 48 political action points or political capital, and so we're going to increase our tobacco tax, which 75% is a huge tax. However, it decreases the tobacco usage, which is good for our overall health of the country. So we're going to start with that. We'll implement community policing as opposed to just having a normal police system. When the community works together, there's less racial tension, and it also fights crime. So we're going to implement that. Let's also implement some recycling. We'll implement the welfare fraud department because people like it. Basically, it keeps people from committing fraud and claiming money from the government if they don't need it. So initially it's going to cost more than we're going to generate, but as we add more policies that provide services to people, it will equal out more. So we'll do that, and we'll start our next quarter. We are going to ban alcohol adverts because it will be a step in the right direction in stopping alcoholism. So as you can see in the red, these are all the bad things going on in society. So we have antisocial behavior, we have vigilant mobs, and so you can see the green things are the things helping to contribute to these bad things. So crime is making there be vigilant mobs, and then the death penalty and the police force is slowing it down, and then the vigilant mobs are angering conservatives, and it is also decreasing tourism. So each of these things is interconnected, and you can see we have an alcohol abuse situation, as well as internet crime. We have over here a skills shortage, an uncompetitive economy, and pollution. And then over here we have a drug addiction epidemic, as well as an asthma epidemic. So I'm going to... There's so many things going on right now, but I think in order to start changing policy, we're going to need to raise income tax a little bit so we can afford new policy. So I'm going to do nothing for one round to build up our political capital. So we're going to bump this from 31 to 45, which is a pretty big increase in taxes, which negatively affects everybody, but particularly the middle class. So we will be able to decrease this in the future, but we're gonna have to first increase funding for things like state schools, and that will help to address our skills shortage in the country, because skills shortage basically means there's not enough trained people to fill certain jobs. Okay, we are going to criminalize child labor because we don't want children to be taken advantage of or injured. So we now have a surplus, which is good because we owe $3.522 trillion. We're going to help boost the economy by giving small business grants, which is basically investments in small businesses. So we'll do that. We'll do technology grants as well. And then next round we will do rural development grants. So we're gonna ban fracking because it has lots of environmental tolls that could be negative for the economy, but we also have to get the environment in check. So let's do rural development grants. So this will help the economy as well. And then we're going to start working on some law and order stuff as well. Implement an alcohol tax. That could get us a lot of money. And that will decrease alcohol consumption. And we'll implement fuel efficiency standards, which is basically making sure cars are fuel efficient. We're going to start working on health as well. So let's go ahead and increase our state health funding, which basically means the government provides healthcare to all. I'm going to save up our points. So we're going to allow same-sex marriages so that 2 consenting adults can get married. So health is going to go up, education is increasing. We're going to make sure everyone gets a jury trial, and we're going to get rid of private prisons and just focus on state-provided prisons. And the reason for that is then we have better rehabilitation, so people don't go back to prison once they're out, because that can cost a lot of money in the long run. And then legal aid. We'll make sure everyone has access to a lawyer. Okay, so alcohol abuse is now at an end, which is good. And I think the alcohol tax probably helped to end that. Alcohol consumption has gone down thanks to the alcohol tax and banning adverts. Cool. So let's go and increase intelligence services funding to stop internet crime. So the asthma epidemic is being caused by pollution, basically. So we're gonna have to start working on the environment a little bit more. What about this? Narcotics, State Health Service, Police Force. Okay, we'll increase Police Force funding because we've already increased funding for community policing. We'll increase funding for biofuels too, because that will reduce our oil demand. We'll increase funding for school buses. Alright, so doctors are now on strike, which is not good. That's going to cause some issues. So part of the issue is labor laws are very pro-employer, and then pro-union is basically pro, like, the worker. So we want it more balanced, so somewhere in the middle. So we want the most benefits and the least negative outcomes. Okay, that seems a little bit better. And we just use like all of our political capital. So we're gonna propose this. This basically means that large agencies, whether it's private or government, can't just keep tons of data on citizens without telling them. Hopefully this doctor strike ends soon, because it is hurting the health of our country. We still have a surplus, which is good because we're slowly paying off our debt, which is why this blue bar is coming down. We're gonna get rid of school vouchers, which is basically taxpayers funding private education. If you want to send your kids to private school, that's fine, but taxpayers aren't going to pay for it. Oh, so our surplus is shrinking down because we're increasing our spending, and there's a recession, so we're getting less money and spending more. The global economy just crashed. Okay, so we're having our first, or I guess our second election. So this would be for our second term. So 72% of the people voted for us, 5% voted against, and 23% didn't vote. So this is who voted for, against, and didn't vote in each category. So we improved education, health, decreased crime, car usage, bus usage went up. So high earnings went down and the economy went down, which is not good. Tourism went down. So we're gonna start hopefully improving the economy. So we're gonna allow software patents, because without them there's very little incentive to create new software. So the skills shortage is now at an end, and pollution is now at an end, or at least it's no longer a major issue. So I think next round and the doctor strike is about to end. So I think our economy is actually going to jump back up to a pretty decent place next round. So the uncompetitive economy is now at an end, homelessness is no longer a problem, and the doctor strike has ended, which is good. So our deficit is starting to come down. Internet crime's going up, which is not good. We might have to increase the income tax up to 50%, which is insane. But we're just gonna have to do it until the deficit goes down, and then we'll drop it back down as soon as that happens. Okay, so we have a huge surplus, so we're gonna drop it down already. So we're cutting it down to 45%, which is what we had it at before. And if it stays going well, we can drop it down to 40. Let's implement bus subsidies and a national monorail system, which is going to help reduce traffic as well. Oh, that's a lot of money. Okay. Let's see how this goes. So the economy's improving. Our budget is still good. So I'm going to add an internet tax because if someone's buying something in a certain state, they should pay a tax, whatever the sales tax is in that state. So that way the internet doesn't have an advantage to actual stores. We'll make it 10%, which is quite a bit. The asthma epidemic is increasing, which is not good. Let's see, welfare, economy, clean energy subsidies. We will implement this as it will help by reducing carbon dioxide emissions. We now have high productivity, which is helping to increase our economy. So we're going to start spending some more now. We're going to add child provision, which is childcare. So basically, if parents don't have to look after kids, they can go back to work. And if more people are working, that helps the economy. So we'll spend a lot on that because it will help our productivity. We're going to increase the amount of foreign aid we give because basically it's giving money or education or food, basically help to countries that need it. And that improves our relations with other countries. Okay, we're going to drop down the income tax to 40%. And we might even be able to drop it down to 30 something in the future. I guess I'll also increase rail subsidies. So basically to help end pollution, because then people are taking public transportation and they aren't driving their own cars. Okay, we have a small deficit. So hopefully that resolves. It's probably because I started funding this, but I'm not sure. Let's take a look. Expenditures. Science funding. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ban handguns to help with crime. Next round, oops, we need to hire a foreign policy cabinet member. So foreign policy, we'll have hired this lady. Okay. Housing expansion, we are going to keep the planning restrictions because there's a reason you can't build in certain areas. We're not going to let them destroy the environment, and we have a surplus again, which is good. I'm going to drop military spending just by a touch. So basically these are the ceremonial only, which then you're vulnerable. Reservists, you have light defense, well-trained, highly trained, and overwhelming force, which is what we currently have. We'll drop it down to highly trained, so we'll drop it down to like 220. So we still have a really good military. Okay, so our budget is good because we still have a surplus. Let's take a look at our debt. So our debt is going down, it's pretty low. We started about here, then we decreased it, then it increased when we had that economic crash. And then the global economy is doing well, which is helping us. So, I don't know, we might crash again, which is okay, as long as we still have a surplus. We're gonna get rid of the death penalty. Alright, now we need to replace our tax minister. So we're gonna have evolution be the only thing we teach, because that gives us more of a tech advantage, which should help the economy. Yeah, debt interest is only 5 billion right now, which is not bad. Oh, well, we just had our last election. But because of how well we did, our party got 99% of the vote. More people didn't vote than voted against us, so that was pretty good. Let's see. Most people supported us. Let's see. So education, health went up, crime went down, poverty went down, violent crime went down, equality went up, technology improved.